If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.
This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Podcast Season 7, Episode 35. My name is Tim Mitra. I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined by Jonathan Kuline in Jackson Town, New Brunswick.
With conviction, folks. Yes, this may be my last episode in Jacksontown. Hopefully next week I will be at my permanent residence in scenic Florenceville, Bristol, New Brunswick.
Nice. Right, well, we have some fact check from last week. I did mention on the show, I just listened back to it, I did mention that Colin Baker did 2 episodes with Ronnie before he was fired from the show, and then they rolled Sylvester McCoy in to finish off the arc with 4 episodes. And yeah, and I think I mentioned last week that they even left, Keane told me about this, but they left McCoy in Colin Baker's, sort of, he had a rainbow colored coat, and they left him in that one for the first couple of shows, so as to not to confuse people as to who he was, even though he was shorter and had dark hair. But anyway, so I got here some notes from the Wikipedia page. I'll just read it out to you. So Baker's tenure was challenged by infighting amongst BBC executives. Peter Davidson argued in 2018 that the decision was more to do with the executives wanting to get rid of showrunner or producer Nathan Turner, saying, I was upset about what happened really because, first of all, it wasn't to do with Colin, I know that. It was to do with other issues. The power structure in the BBC had changed and they didn't want Nathan Turner around, is the truth of it. So that was, I think, the blade came down and Colin caught the blade. So Sylvester McCoy played the sixth Doctor. He was injured, and he actually wore a blonde wig, and they didn't show his face. So when he regenerates in the opening minutes of Time of the Rani, which was the 4-episode conclusion, his face is hidden by video effects of the regeneration process. And Colin Baker was offered some like a couple of shows or something like that, but he wanted a full season and he was being sticky about that. So he said he was being a little selfish and not playing along, and he didn't think about how it would impact the fans at the time. So and then Paul McCann. Paul McCann was the next Doctor, 8th Doctor, I think, right? Because BBC had sold the rights to Fox. And they tried to bring back a movie, and that's where they had Paul McCann playing the Doctor for, like, I think it was like a movie and a mini special or something like that, a mini series, like not very long. But McCoy did come back and do the regeneration so he could regenerate into McCann. This is like many years later, like I think 96, I think. Only thing that he kind of went like, what is that? They kind of implied that Doctor Who was half human, but it has never been mentioned again. So, scratch your heads or whatever. This is just sort of a Fox invention. And the reason why, and around 2005 time period, the rights had expired, and that's why the BBC brought back the Eccleston era Doctor Who. That's why there's a break between the old Doctor Who and the new Doctor Who. I'm calling it Doctor Who TNG. So
there you go.
Yeah. Yep. So that's sort of your Doctor Who wrap up which will all become even sadder as we delve into this show today.
Yes.
Yeah. And so and the other thing I was postulating was, where did the Murderbot come from? And Murderbot was a series of books called the Murderbot Diaries. And it's basically a first-person retelling of the story by the actual Murderbot itself. I actually just checked them out of the library. They're only 3 hours long. They're like audiobooks. I mean, they're regular books, but the audiobook is they're novellas, I guess they call them, because they're short, right? But so I read the first one, which was all signs read or something like that, and I checked out the second one, and I'll start reading that one. So I think the first season we're seeing now is based on what I've read in the book, or listened to in the book for the last couple of days. That's what season 1 is, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'm going to say Esai Morales plays antagonist Gabriel in the Tom Cruise movie, but we know him as Joseph Adama in the Caprica series. Yeah, I guess he was Admiral Adama's grandfather, I think.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And I was wrong about the bad Mission Impossible. The bad Mission Impossible is Mission Impossible 2. And that was directed by John Woo, not the gentleman who I mentioned, Ang Lee, I think I said. So, yeah. And I was talking about Paul Rubens last week, a.k.a. Pee-wee Herman. Debbie Mazar was his companion in later, would go to award ceremonies with him and hang out with him, and she was a good friend of his. So she was sort of his grace to his grace to her will, or her way, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yep, if that works. Anyway. And then we'll just throw over to headlines. Jonathan's got a bunch of headlines for us to talk about, so let's do it.
Bunch of headlines, yes. So, the good folks at Netflix had their Ta-Doom thing last weekend, and that was... your mileage may vary depending on which parts of Netflix you like, but they did have some good stuff for us. So we finally got a little bit more information about the timing of the final season of Stranger Things. So Stranger Things Season 5 is going to be coming in November. It's
kind of 3 phases, right?
Yeah, it says, they're splitting it into multiple parts, it says. So 3 parts. Volume 1 is coming November 26th. The Volume 2 is coming on Christmas Day. And the finale of the whole series is coming on New Year's Eve.
Oh, okay. So pretty quick. Right.
So at least, all things being equal, we're talking about just a little over a month. So it's not too bad. But it's interesting because, we always
talk... It's Netflix, right?
Yeah, we talk about Netflix and their insistence upon doing the whole sort of everything drops at once, and then you have to scramble, and spoilers get out, and social media is a challenge. And now here they are leaning into what we would call a bit more of a traditional schedule. So it's interesting that they've decided to take this strategy for this final run. I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense. And it does, as we often talk about here on this podcast, it avoids the Lopez calculus here, because it does take longer than a month. So you can't just tune in and watch the whole thing in a month. So if you...
That's sneaky of them, actually. You think about it. Yeah, they get 3 months idea.
It's smart, because I'm sure there are people who follow the Lopez calculus and are like, cool, I'll just get this for a month and then I'll cancel it and I'll save myself some money. If you stretch it out a little bit longer, either you make them wait so they can't watch it at the same time as everybody when it starts, or vice versa at the end. So yeah, it's actually pretty clever. But so November 26th is the date for those of you who are fans, and now it's going to be a countdown till then. So they did say that this is going to be 8 episodes and that each one is movie length. So it's probably closer to 14 to 16 hours worth of content. So I think what we're talking about is probably something like, the first 4, the next 3, and then the final 1 or something like that, or the final 2. Maybe it's 3, 3, and 2 or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting that they are going to get spread out. So as a podcaster, great. Stretches out our content, gives us more stuff to talk about and more time to digest. Because again, I think we talked about that with Andor. Sometimes it's a little hard to digest it when it's just kind of the food spigot jammed down your throat. So it's kind of nice actually that they're going to spread it out for us.
Yeah, it was interesting. I just, it's sort of my watch list item, I guess. I'll talk about it now. But yeah, because I fell into that same trap with Department Q, which I talked about a couple of weeks ago as my pick, came out this week. And I made the mistake of starting to watch it a few days, like 2 days ago. And basically it's 9 episodes, and I finished the 9 episodes in like a day and a half. So... But so again, like it's annoying that, you know, something like that, like, I mean, you can't not, it's like a bag of potato chips. You can't not eat the whole bag, you know. I did actually have to stop after like 6 episodes and go to sleep and wake up and then watch the rest. But, you know, and it is a really good show, I gotta say. But yeah, it's just that's what I don't like about Netflix, and I guess does Prime do that too? I can't. No, Prime does like 3 episodes, and then they kind of spoon feed them, right?
Yeah, often they'll do a 3-part sort of debut for.
Mind you, Disney did that with. Didn't Disney do that with the Shadow of the Empire things or whatever?
Oh, the Tales of the... Yeah, they did... Well, they dropped everything, right? They dropped it all at once. But again, those are mini episodes, so like shorter for sure. But yeah.
I guess like a movie length if you put them all end to end, right? So
yeah, I think the important thing is that, you know, even if from Netflix we can have a little understanding that, you know, we don't need to gorge ourselves on this, and that it is actually kind of counter to what we would benefit from, you know, as a society. I don't think we all have a lot of time to sit down. Again, if they're talking about 8 movie-length episodes, it's like 16 episodes or 16 hours worth of content they're going to drop in one day, be like, that's murder. So yeah, I mean... Oh,
is it 16 episodes?
It's 8 episodes, but they said movie length. So we'll say an hour... You know, that means over 90 minutes. So between 90 minutes and 2 hours for these things.
For each episode?
For each episode, yes.
What?
Yep. They said they're going to go to town on these things.
Are you going to have Florence Pugh come and do guest appearances and stuff?
It's a thing.
You look familiar to the cop, right?
That's right.
Anyway.
Part of the Tudum thing, they also announced...
Tudum?
Tudum is this annual event that Netflix does where they basically... It's their version of a public showcase where they show trailers and they have guests and they do musical performances. You can watch the actual event itself is now on Netflix. So you could watch it live when it first came on, or you can watch it now in replay. And it's a hype fest for the stuff they've got coming the rest of the year. So Lady Gaga came out and performed, and then they confirmed that she's going to be on the new season of Wednesday. They showed trailers, they showed clips, they had celebrities there. So it's a whole thing that they do, and they've done it for, I think, at least the last couple of years. But yeah, I mean, they introduced a bunch of stuff that is sort of outside of our sort of sci-fi fantasy genre kind of stuff. They did talk about, I know Jaime is a fan of Squid Game? So they showed the last trailer for that. There was a few different things that came out that day that are sort of outside of our area. But yeah, it was a whole thing. For Wednesday, they actually dropped the first 6 minutes of the first episode of season 2, which is now available on both Netflix and on YouTube. So if you want, you can go to our show notes, or you can go to one of those channels and you can have a look and you can watch the first 6 minutes of Wednesday season 2.
Yeah, no, I thought that was out already, but okay.
Yeah, no, it's not coming till this summer. So yeah. I gave it a watch. It's, you know, seems like it's up the same alley as the last one. Very darkly funny. Jen Ortega continues to not smile into the camera and capture our hearts. But yeah, looks good. I'm in. It was a trailer-orama week. We did get a bunch of other things. So we got the first full trailer for Alien Earth, the new Noah Hawley FX series set in the Alien universe. A bunch of aliens crash in a spaceship into a city on Earth in the future, and the people that have to go in and find out what's going on with this spaceship that has crashed and why it's crashed it looks like they are the artificial humans that we saw from that universe, and a few familiar faces in the trailer there. So yeah, it looked pretty intense and scary. I mean, Noah's a very talented guy. Obviously, you're a big fan of Fargo, which is what he's been working on in the last few years. Before that, he did Legion for FX, which was a very mind-twisty but enjoyable series. So the pedigree is certainly there. This guy is Mr. FX at this point. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yes, please.
Did you? What did you think of that?
Oh, yes, please. I watched it.
Yeah.
It looked pretty interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. So this is a TV show, right?
It is, yeah.
I haven't watched the Predator show that came out last year, I guess, right?
Oh, Prey or
Prey? Yeah,
Prey's a movie, but yeah.
Oh, is it a movie? Oh, I thought it was a TV show.
Yeah,
okay,
no, it's a movie.
I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's on the Hulu, I think, right?
It's going to be on Hulu for here in Canada. It'll be on Disney Plus with what's like Star or whatever they call it. Gen V Season 2 trailer dropped from the good folks over at Amazon. This one was always going to be a little complicated because Chance Perdomo, one of the main stars of the first season, tragically died in a motorcycle accident, and they did not recast. They are clearly moving it forward without him, and there is some reference. We see the actor who played his father in the first season sort of, tell me what happened to my son. So there's a bit of a mystery there as to, what happened to that character. Lots of familiar faces from the first season. Lots of familiar settings. I sure recognize the university that was just down the street from where I used to live. It looks gross. It looks funny. It looks like all the things you'd expect from a spinoff of The Boys. I think. Is
it filmed at the U of T in Mississauga?
Yeah, it's filmed at UTM. Yeah, so
cool.
and throughout our neighborhood actually, when we were still living in Mississauga, we were driving down the street one day and we saw that someone had turned one of the local independent gas stations into like a Vought gas bar. So
did you stop and get some Vought gas?
No, unfortunately, it was closed for the day. But it was really funny to come down and be like, both my son and I saw it and we're like, what? So yeah,
didn't take a selfie with it in the background.
It was weird living in Vaughteville for a bit. It was actually in the winter. It was pretty cold when they were filming out there. But I think they had basically melted all the snow around it so that it would look like a different season or something. But
right.
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah, but it looks good. I mean, I don't think it's as good as The Boys is, but then the bar is very, very high. I think it was certainly very enjoyable for what it was, as far as just adding to more depth to the Boys universe. And there was some characters, obviously, that crossed over from The Boys to Gen V Season 1, and then from Gen V Season 1 into the latest season of The Boys. So it's not just superfluous. There is a purpose. There is a connection there. And I suspect as this is now coming ahead of the final season of The Boys, there might be some foreshadowing and stuff that'll make it worthwhile too. So yeah, looks pretty good.
Yeah. Didn't the blonde-haired character, now I'm thinking, didn't he show up in the end of Gen V, the last day or something?
Oh yeah,
like that?
Homelander. Yeah.
Homelander. Yeah.
Yep. It's it's a whole thing. And
cool.
Last trailer for the week was we did get the trailer for the second Wicked movie, Wicked for Good. If you had a chance to see that first one, and like many people, came to the stunning realization near the end of the movie, hey, wait a minute, this is never going to end. And there's a second one coming. It's coming. So it's coming this winter. It's coming closer to Christmas time. But first trailer, still, I mean, again, I did not love the movie, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was worth a watch. A lot of singing. And it's pretty super campy. It's, it's well aware of what it is. But I like the performances, the singing. I mean, there's no arguing that those two women and the supporting actors can sing terrifically. It looks great. It looks incredible. Like the details, the costumes, the sets, everything looks fantastic. So yeah, I'm not going to go see this in the theater by any means, but I will certainly watch it next spring when it arrives on a streaming service. But if you are a fan, you should check out the trailer. It's really cool.
Yeah, I should have bought it on Vision Pro when it was on sale for a minute, right?
Oh yeah.
I think it was down to like $9 or something like that, and I didn't buy it then, but now it's $24. So I mean,
yeah, no, thank you.
I thought maybe with the trailer coming out they might drop the price, but to get people to watch it. But
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they lowered it down closer to the release date.
Yeah, they may still. Yeah, and then but because I haven't watched it yet, I would rather enjoy it in 3D as opposed to 2D. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Maybe I'll break down and rent it or something like that.
It is definitely worth a watch. And especially if you have a little more knowledge than just I've seen Wizard of Oz, it certainly touches on a lot of different bits of lore and then throws in some new stuff, which is kind of fun.
Well, I mean, there's a whole series of books, right? There's Ozma and there's like, it's not just the Wizard of Oz.
Absolutely.
Right. So cool.
And last thing for the headlines, we did get confirmation this week, and I wanted to share this because, you know, it's the age-old question in the post-Marvel movie-going experience. Do I need to sit here and watch all these these credits at the end of this movie on the off chance something is going to happen? Well, if you are going in July or after to go see the new James Gunn Superman movie, and you're wondering, hey, should I sit through these credits? First of all, yes, you should. These people worked really hard to entertain you, and it's the least you could do is to sit and acknowledge their names. But also, if you happen to stick around, you will get some post-credit scenes. So this was confirmed by James Gunn this week. He said, yes, there are. They have said nothing about what they will be. But obviously, as he is now building a new DC extended universe in the movie theater, cinematic universe, I would say that's probably worth your while to stick around.
It looks good. I mean, it's funny because I think it was like, I looked at some of the comments. Even he commented on some of the tweets about around the dog food thing, the dog cookie thing. Right?
Yeah. So, milk bones. Get your milk bones. Get a free comic. Yeah.
Yeah. He commented on that, which I thought was pretty funny, and it makes sense. You know, like, it's not just like in the case of Superman, it's not just Superman. It's like DC, right? So it gives them a chance to sort of, get Sam Jackson to come in and do a cameo or whatever.
We're putting together a team. Yeah,
we're putting together another team. Exactly. We'll figure out what happened in the Marvel universe when everybody disappeared.
We definitely, I think, we've already seen in the trailer that we're going to get, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern. We're going to get Hawkgirl. Like, we know some of the things that we're going to get. We're going to get Mr. Terrific. It makes perfect sense that they're going to tease out more little Easter eggs and more things that are going to make people speculate, and they want to get the conversation going. They want to have people thinking about what's next, right? So, yeah, makes perfect sense.
All right, well, that brings us to the main part of the show where we talk about something Star Trek, and this time we have some Star Trek to talk about. Woo! Yay! And then we'll talk about Doctor Who. But anyway, so we're covering as promised, we're covering the original series from 1970.
Original animated series.
Original animated series, sorry, the TAS, yes. From 74, I think, right?
73, I think, was the first season. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're talking about episode 3 and episode 4. Episode 3 is One of Our Planets is Missing, and the second one is called The Lorelei Signal. So the first one was, it's been a couple of weeks since I watched it. But yeah, like there's a planet-eating entity, I think.
It was definitely, it's funny because this came out in September. The actual release date for this episode was September 22nd, 1973. So this predates, obviously, Star Trek, the motion picture, but it kind of has a little bit of the same vibe. It's like there's this giant thing in space. It's destroying everything that it comes into contact with. The Enterprise has to go and get in touch with it. There's this ticking clock of it's about to arrive and do damage to things. It's kind of got a little bit of Star Trek 4, a little bit of Star Trek 1, kind of energy to it. But yeah, basically there's this giant space cloud that is destroying planets. It's about to destroy a colonized planet for the Federation, and the Enterprise has to get in the way and figure it out. And they do a little impression of Jonah and the whale as they do. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right, because they do tend to recycle stories. I mean, they did back then too, and it's interesting that the way this episode runs, it's actually pretty entertaining. There was an interesting guy. Oh, I wrote his name down. The funny looking guy in the con.
Yeah.
Mr. Rax or Arax, I think.
Arax, yeah.
Yeah. And he speaks, right?
So, he does. This is what happens when Chekhov takes a week off.
I guess, yeah.
Because famously, Walter Koenig never came back for this series, right?
Oh, didn't he?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So
now it's famous. Yeah.
So that's the whole deal. Is overall they did pretty well. They got most of the original cast back to do the voices, some with more gusto than others, but they they brought these people back, but Walter Koenig did not come back, and so they cast this new Lieutenant Arax as a alien character who's sitting next to Sulu. Yeah. And it was kind of cool because, again, this was sort of the promise of Star Trek, and this also, again, this predates, TNG in 87 when we finally saw an alien on the bridge full time, as well as obviously an artificial person. So yeah, it was kind of a neat thing to have that back then.
Yeah, for sure.
This one, and it's worth noting. So the governor of this planet that they're going to is Bob Wesley, who was featured in a TOS episode, original series called The Ultimate Computer. So they're even kind of playing connect the dots. So this actually, if you were a Star Trek diehard, and there was certainly no shortage of them back then, this was even more like, oh, this is all interconnected. This actually means something. This is all connected to the stuff that we're familiar with, right? So it was interesting. I sat down and watched it, and I watched it with my son, and we were saying the same thing I think we talked about in the first two episodes that we watched, which is it's very faithful to the original series. It's very similar vibe, but
except their chins don't move.
Well, yeah, a little less emotion, but there is a bit of a lack of humor. It's a little dry. It's very sciencey. As a matter of fact, I was very struck watching this first one as they get sucked into this giant cloud and they realize that the cloud has similar characteristics to a human being, and they start talking about like how the human intestine or biological mammal intestines work and stuff like that. I was like, this is actually a pretty smart show for a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, they're not talking down to kids. They're talking right over the top of them and hoping they catch up. But it was, I was impressed by that. But then I was also struck with like, by the time you layer in some pretty complicated scientific dialogue, biological science and stuff like that, it could probably, there's probably some younger kids who were like, I just want to see some phasers, like what's happening here, right? So yeah, it was interesting to look at that, but then I was noting that, and then the follow-up episode, which was the Lorelei signal, episode 4, definitely seemed like it had a little bit more of the humor to it. Not a lot, but a little bit more.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I just want, before we go to that one, what I find interesting about this is that they would have these sort of gaseous anomalies in the original series because of the lack of budget to do special effects, right? Yeah. They would do like a video effect, or they would do a cloud or whatever, and it would kind of be very menacing, right? You could just sort of swat it away with a frisbee, because it's just gas, right? But ironically, that the creature, they have all the budget, they could draw anything they want, but they probably spent like way too much time trying to draw a cloud.
It could have been a giant snow cone in space
on a piece of acid. Yeah, they could have done that twice, actually. So that's a bit funny because the what you mentioned, the Star Trek 4, I think, was the one with the ship, the thing comes back to Earth,
for the whales, right?
Yeah. That was like another giant ice cream cone in space, right? So more more like Rama, like, the rendezvous with Rama. We talked about that, right? That's what Rama is shaped like.
Yeah, and there's a whole sort of, series of episodes of Star Trek and other science fiction stories over the years about these giant unexplained things in space that they have to try and communicate with or connect with or try and relate to so that they can stop a catastrophe from happening. It is a bit of a trope for sure. This one was interesting too because obviously the solution to it, and we are gonna talk about the episode, so there is a spoiler here if you want to keep watching it, but the solution is essentially they do a mind meld between Spock and this cloud and convince the cloud, hey, Hey, friendly giant, you're stepping on the people.
You're looking for.
Please stop stepping on all the little people underneath your feet and convince it to go home. Honorable mention to clearly Majel Barrett doing the voice of the giant cloud. That was interesting. And particularly interesting because, as we say in the next episode, she has multiple parts, and I was struck by the fact that as is certainly a tradition in animation, different actors playing different parts in different episodes, or different characters using just slightly different, inflecting their voice to make it, higher or lower or whatever. She played multiple roles in the next episode too. So
yeah, her title in the One of Our Planets is Missing is Cosmic Cloud.
Cosmic Cloud.
That's her character name.
Yeah.
So the Lorelei single, what I found interesting about this one, this is one where it's the Homer's Odyssey, the sirens, right?
100%.
And they're basically calling the men in to and then taking them over and making them old, I think.
Yeah, it's basically sucking their life force out to keep themselves alive, right?
Which is again, it's another 1960s, 1970s trope from Star Trek where, women are evil and they do all this kind of manipulation of men and, hardcore Fenton mud.
That's not 1960s and 70s. That's called biblical history and ancient history and current history.
Exactly. And the solution to this one, obviously, is since the men are incapacitated, is to get all the women on the Enterprise to take over. Well, I mean, we did see women I was telling Carol about this. We did see women in the corridors in the original series, and of course, it was Uhura and Yeoman Rand,
Nurse Chapel,
yep. and well, no, there's been a couple coming and going. Like there's always like one science officer, but they always sort of have the red skirt on, right?
Yes.
But there's women in the planets, like when they go to when McCoy goes to visit his old girlfriend, and she's been taken over by a robot or whatever. She's been made into a robot or something like that. But there's all these sort of tropes. But so I mean, like, I just kind of laughed because when I think 9 women line up in the transporter to beam over, I'm like, where did they get them from?
Yeah.
So it was kind of funny. And then, of course, most of them were wearing red
specifically, they were all wearing their mini skirts, right? They were all wearing their very 1960s mini skirts, which, I know they tried to sort of reverse that when they did the first season of TNG, where they're like, but also the men wear those. And like, okay, sure they do. Yeah, okay.
Right, yeah.
But
that was from Star Trek 2, that idea, right? Because the Star Trek 2 drawings, they were all, the men had sort of unisex, men would wear sort of kilty kind of things, I guess, right?
Yeah. Hey, you know what? In a world where, with a lot more, consideration for gender nonconforming and things like that, I and we'll talk about Doctor Who in a minute. Doctor Who, his outfit from the final episode of the season looked pretty damned comfortable.
Yeah. Tartan tunic and a tartan kilt. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but this was again a bit of well-worn territory. Like, I don't think for anybody who's watched some sci-fi or read some sci-fi, this will come as a very shocking story. But it was kind of funny to watch all the men just sort of, we were joking that like, be careful, what's Sulu using to steer the Enterprise? He was, that all the men suddenly became just walking erections and had to go down to the planet and meet the girls, and all the women were like, "What's wrong with you?" And it's like, oh, so that's what it's like to be a 15-year-old boy. So it definitely, there was more. I would say this show scores very well on the unintentional comedy scale, for sure. There's a lot of moments where you're like, oof, why does nobody actually say the thing that everyone's thinking, right? I
mean, like, the thing is that the guy who did the costumes for the original Star Trek, he had like a yard of fabric to make a dress for a woman, which is why most of them are scantily clad, right? In the original series, right?
Well, and the fact that I'm sure that the network, even though the show was produced by Lucille Ball and her production company, I'm sure that the studio was like, this show's great. There's a lot of guys talking. Maybe we could get some more beautiful women in there and put them in short skirts,
definitely,
because it's the 60s, right? But no, I thought this was a fun episode. It was a little predictable, but again, the part where they're all going to drown because they're old and they can't swim to the top of an urn that is filling full of water. So all you need to do is basically spill it at the top. But it was again, I enjoy this series. I find this to be an appropriate sequel to the original series, for sure.
Yeah, no, it definitely did fit in, and it did fill that gap. I mean, not like the Ewoks and droids did.
It's not trivializing though. That's the thing. And as I say, it's very familiar territory if you are a Star Trek fan. It's not going off in left field. And if they had come out of doing Star Trek and then put on Lower Decks, people would have been really mad. The world wasn't ready for Star Trek Lower Decks at this point.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
You needed to build up to Lower Decks. You couldn't have just gone straight from this to that. In the same way that I was 9 years old when Return of the Jedi came out. I enjoyed it. I didn't mind the Ewoks, but they weren't my favorite thing. And then there was this sort of drought afterwards where the only thing we had were like the Ewoks cartoon, the Droids cartoon. The Droids cartoon was a slightly less childish one. I did watch the Ewoks, but it was very puerile. It was very childish, and did kind of bum me out that I'm like, I don't care about any of this. I just want to see what happened with Han Solo and Chewbacca, So if I was a Star Trek fan in 1973 and they were like, hey, here's an adventure, we're going to show you something wacky inside the Star Trek universe, you'd be like, no, I'm good. If it was the adventures of Spock's pet, was it Salat or whatever they call
Salat,
it?
Yeah. But just a little bit on the title too, like the Legend of Lorelei apparently is what it's based on, and it's an old German tale of beautiful women luring sailors on the Rhine to crash into the rocks, which is like I said, the siren song, right? Yep. From ancient Greece. But yeah, it's called. That's where the title Lorelei comes from.
Yep.
Good old Germans, of which you are sort of one, maybe sort of.
Well, I'm descended from them anyways.
Now, a word from our sponsor. Now, back to the show.
You want to move on to Doctor Who?
Doctor Who?
Doctor
Who? Yeah.
Well, Doctor Who question mark is a great question to ask after this episode. So what man? I think is the appropriate response. But this is the reality war.
Yeah, this is sort of the second part of the series of the show that started last week, where the Ronnie splits into two, and you get, as Jonathan said last week, a Ronnie and the Ronnie, and the Doctor is still in this sort of funk at the end of that episode. I think he just starts to come out of it, and Ruby Sunday is the only person who can remember what's going on. It was interesting, from a sort of spoilery thing, I forgot the name of the big original series Time Lord that they were trying to get out of the
Omega
underbelly. Yeah. Omega, yeah. So it was kind of anticlimactic because I guess 3/4 of the way through the show they solved that problem, right? And then there's a whole lot of exposition and wrap up and things like that, and some really cool, interesting things. But all the way through it, Ruby Sunday seems to be the only one that's kind of really in tune with what's going on, because all the people from UNIT come out of their stupor and take over their roles, and because UNIT's fighting against Orion or Omega and all that kind of stuff, right? Omega or Omega. But yeah, so interesting show, and then I we'll talk about the piece of fabric that the Doctor and Belinda pass back and forth in a minute. But so, what did you think about this particular episode? Yeah, without going into the end, which is going to be kind of weird.
Yeah, we'll circle to the spoiler parts of this as we go. There will be a little bit of discussion about what happens, but then what really happens. So, yeah, I mean, the preceding episode, which was Wish World, obviously was sort of a weird the Doctor and Belinda have a little girl. They're which again is really weird because it's pretty affirmed in here that this Doctor is more queer. And, there is a little bit more sort of where's this all going in the previous episode. Here, it's pretty propulsive as far as, where it goes. So, Anita from the Time Hotel, which we saw at the beginning of, what was that? It was in the special, right? It was the special that preceded this season with the Time Hotel. So that circles back around. And so Anita helps save the Doctor. And then the Doctor goes back in, and by using the Time Hotel, they basically circumvent what the Ronnie has done to reality around UNIT, so they can get all the people in UNIT back. And then from there, they sort of start this resistance against. And, and then it's pretty standard Doctor Who fare. It basically, the Doctor has to go and confront the Ronnie, try and prevent Omega from being raised from the underworld or hell, or if you prefer. And, it seems like it's kind of going where you think it's going. And then, there's a sort of slightly happy ending as far as the whole Conrad and Ruby thing, right? Where Conrad was a jerk and his, messed her over and stuff like that. And then, he gets his happy ending. She kind of gets her happy ending. They save the baby that the Ronnie had kidnapped. So again, all fairly par for the course.
But it's interesting that, the lady that's running the box they put the baby in to protect her from time, right? From the time changes. That's Susan Twist.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting because she was sort of the Easter egg all the way through, uncredited, all the way through the first series, right?
Yep.
As well. And then, as you mentioned, basically, Anita's job is to sort of keep her foot in the door and keep the link to the hotel open, so that the time hotel open, so that the reality can continue. But it's interesting. I read something else the other day, and I hadn't thought about this very much, but you do hear them say it all the way through the series, is that it's kind of like, how, what do we call it when the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, it's the Kelvin universe?
Yes.
So this is like, they don't have gravity, they have mavity.
Yeah.
Because you remember that one episode where they bump into, I think it's David Tennant and the Runaway Bride, they bump into Isaac Newton, right, as he's discovering gravity, and they say gravity.
They mess it up for him, right? Yeah.
Well, they say gravity to him, the gravity of the situation, and they're sort of kind of teasing him about it, which is again against the Prime Directive, I have to say. I must quote the Prime Directive.
They got to get the Doctor one of those.
But anyways, exactly. But the Newton remembers the word, but remembers it incorrectly and says mavity. Which is why now in Doctor Who we don't have gravity anymore. We have the mavity of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, again, it's a good running joke, right? It's and it circles back, and if you are just watching your first Doctor Who, or you don't really pay super hard attention to it, and that's fine. You might just be like, oh, that's a silly thing that they said or whatever. But if you know the running gag, it's, again, it's just an extra little.
Well, but again, we've had the Doctor split off a couple of times too, right? So, because we had that lady Doctor, she did show up once in one of the episodes this week, right? The other female Doctor, not Jodie Whittaker.
She showed up back in the one where they're in Lagos, right?
Right. Oh yeah, did she? Okay.
Yeah. But it was good, and as a matter of fact, we were talking about the budget and the special effects and the stuff they were doing. This one, the special effects were probably near the top of the rung for what they've done in Doctor Who. The bone monsters and all these different things looked really good for Doctor Who. Doctor Who can look a little, no disrespect to the hardcore Whovians, but a little trashy, little low budget. So that was a pretty impressive twist. And then things got weird.
Yeah. So let's put the spoiler warning on now, right?
If you have not seen this episode, go watch the episode and then come back. We're going to talk about this
if you're not seeing this season,
a
go
little
watch the
bit
season.
longer. So yeah, stay tuned. But yes, here we go.
Yeah, because it was, by the way, just Omega, I'm just reading some of the trivia here. Omega, the first time this Omega character has appeared in 42 years.
Yeah, there was this sort of reference to it in the past, that there was this sort of supreme Time Lord who helped found the Time Lords, but then was so sort of twisted that had to be banished to the underworld, which is, theoretically where he's been all this time. And in that time, he's kind of drank his own Kool-Aid and become this sort of epitome of evil.
Yeah, and I think around that time in the flashback, there was Tom Baker, the third Doctor, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he was in there from a bit. There's always kind of like that kind of, they always drag out the other Doctors when they have these sort of season concluding arc closures, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the big closures, of course, was in order to get the Doctor recentered, Trudy Catwa's Doctor.
Yep.
Jodie Whittaker shows up.
Yeah.
and in full Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who outfit, and is speaking to him, and I mean, it could also be, you know, a manifestation of the TARDIS talking to him too, right? Because they are actually on the TARDIS when that happens. Right?
Yeah, and it was. I get what they were going for, but I can't say I loved it. And I love Jodie Whittaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't love everything about her Doctor, but I love Jodie Whittaker as a performer, and I thought that, you know, I liked her more than I didn't like her time as Doctor Who, for sure.
Yeah.
What I thought was that her appearance here was definitely a little gratuitous and superfluous. Like, it didn't really do a lot, and always when they have these conversations where it's like one Doctor meets the other, it's like, what? So, and it was never really clear, as you say, it's kind of ambiguous as to whether it was really it seems like she was popped out of her own timeline, trying to stop him from what he's going to do, which is, he sort of has it in his head, the current Doctor, that he's going to use his power of his next regeneration to shift reality so that his daughter in the dream world, Poppy, will live.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, it's theoretically the Doctor committing the ultimate sacrifice, but really it's not. But really it is for us, because this means, you know, with a resounding thud, you as a fan of Doctor Who for all these years are watching this going, oh man, they're not going to kill Judy Gatwa's character off after just 2 years. And damned if they didn't do that.
And after what Jaime and I were talking about a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the Doctor basically, you know, performs this miracle and resets the universe, but doesn't regenerate, manages to blow out his hand before he can regenerate, and then goes down and sees Belinda and Poppy, and the reality has changed so that Belinda was always Poppy's mom, and Belinda always had to get home to see her daughter and not her parents, was what she said throughout the season. And they basically re-show you all these scenes from the previous episodes, but with this new context and some slightly altered dialogue, so that, you know, she's, oh, but I have to get home by 7:30. I have to be there to, you know, relieve my mom so that I can be there with my daughter. And then the Doctor's like, well, who's Poppy's dad? And she's like, oh, it's this guy, and we're still friends and whatever. But the, you know, in this alternate reality that has been created, obviously the Doctor is theoretically Poppy's father. Interesting. And we could circle back to what the greater meaning of having a Time Lord human hybrid child is.
Well, I don't know if you were around, but I was talking about I went back and watched the first, what I did this week too, is I watched the first bunch of episodes of the Doctor Who show.
Okay.
Right? With the original Doctor, and I forgot his name now. Hartnell, right? Mm-hmm. William Hartnell. Mm-hmm. And his companion, who was in the Interstellar Song Contest episode,
right?
Susan is his granddaughter,
right?
Which made no sense at the time. I mean, it made sense at the time because, I mean, it's got to be this old guy with these young girls. You got to have some relationship that makes sense in 1960, right? But yeah, it's just like because they've never had. He's always had a companion after that, but they've always just been some woman that he's run into or whatever.
Well, person. He's had male companions too.
Yeah, he's had male companion. Yeah, and one of them died once, but he was a male.
Yes,
but I mean, it's interesting that you know, they had this tie-in with the original actress who played the very first companion, right? Calling the Doctor back when he was, you know, he was imitating Carrie Fisher in the Star Wars movie where, you know, she's off, and they used the Force to bring him back in.
Right.
The Doctor, I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not thrilled about losing Judy Gatwa after only two seasons. I mean, that doesn't seem fair to him, but maybe that was in the contract. I don't know.
Well, and it's possible, but and hopefully next time we reconnect, we'll have a little more information. But I also just felt like, you know, we talked sort of regularly as we were covering these past 2 seasons. I just don't feel like they ever kind of got what they had or could do with him with having a black doctor, with having a queer doctor, and frankly, with having an actor who's as versatile as Judy is. Like, he's really good. I mean, I'm a huge fan of his.
He's Ken, man.
I have been a fan of his for many years now. I loved him on the Netflix series Sex Education. I think he's a tremendous performer. And it just felt like there was always this disconnect between the potential of all the things that this doctor could be and the reality. And the fact that he is now gone and that there is no more opportunity just made me feel sad, because it felt like I'm going to look back at this sort of because I enjoyed him, but I'm going to look back at it with a disappointment that he could have been or should have been better. I just don't think they lived up to the full potential of what they had there. And it makes me sad because I like him and I think that there was a lot of ingredients there. And to be frank, beyond that, I feel like Belinda was a wasted character. And I feel like even, Ruby kind of had the best run of the lot. The Belinda character in the end, like, she never really got fleshed out. She never really got enough, and we really only had her for like 8 episodes. Like, it's disappointing across the board. It's interesting. Now, so
can we talk about the elephant in the room, though?
We will talk about that, and then we can talk about where they go from here. So the elephant in the room is that once he goes and he meets Poppy and Belinda, and they're living happily ever after. He goes out to the garden and he gets in the TARDIS and he goes into space, and it can't hold it back anymore. It's time for him to regenerate, which we all know is for us is, hey, there's going to be a new doctor. And when Judy's face glows and then disappears and is replaced with a new face, it is Billy freaking Piper back as Rose Tyler. Now,
well, is it Rose Tyler or is it the Bad Wolf? That
is a great question, because for anybody who's been on this journey for the past 15 new Who seasons, right back to when Billy made her first appearance in the first episode with Chris Eccleston, she was a long-time companion. She was around for 3-4 seasons.
Something like that, yeah. Because she went stuck around with Tennant.
Yeah, I guess it was 3 seasons, because she did 1 season with Eccleston and a couple with Tennant before she left, and then Donna came in and replaced her. But she was like a really important and really sort of critical companion. She and the doctor kind of fell in love, and there was some real complexities there, and there was these sort of big, huge stakes around her. And so, yeah, I'm really curious to know whether this is actually her, or, this is the doctor, putting on her face because there's some part of her story that needs to be filled in, or who knows what they're going to do here. But it was very weird. It was an unusual choice. I'm curious as to why they've done this. Obviously Russell T Davies is a showrunner right now. Russell worked with her previously on those seasons. So maybe he feels like this is an opportunity for him to go and tell some stories.
But she's also the Bad Wolf in that, like, the Bad Wolf was sort of this anomalous anti-hero. And then I think, I'm trying to remember, it was like a Day of the Doctor or something like that. There was the War Doctor. And then they discovered they finally meet the Bad Wolf, and Bad Wolf is Billy Piper again.
Yeah. So
it's kind of like, she's kind of like the Christopher Plummer of this series, right?
Yeah. I mean, she's kind of got this sort of outsized importance in this sort of whole universe. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they spin this. Like, is this the Doctor? Is this a different incarnation? Are we doing, what are we doing here? But it's another sort of step backwards as opposed to forwards. So you're asking for new Who fans. Now, there is some debate. We've talked about it on this podcast. Is there going to be more on Disney Plus? Are they going to go back to being just BBC? How are they going to do this? We don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But you're kind of asking these new Who fans, people who have come on board the past few seasons, to, like, the same reservations I had at the beginning when they brought David Tennant back, where you're like, people know, and Who fans certainly know the importance of David Tennant, but you're asking new Who fans to be like, I don't understand. So this is an old Doctor. Why is he back? I don't understand. And then they finally sort of start off on this fresh new foot and be like, okay, no, now Judy's the Doctor. Now you're going backwards again and saying, well, actually, Rose Tyler and or Bad Wolf are important characters. So your expectation is what? That these people who like this are going to now have to go seek out those earlier episodes so that they have more of the context. But then the back episodes aren't even available on Disney Plus. So it makes no sense to me. Like, it seems convoluted and complicated, and I'm confused more than I'm pleased.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like, how is that going to work is where I think everybody's thinking, right? Because in the same way that it was when we saw Jodie Whittaker regenerate into David Tennant, like, it was the same sort of like, what?
Yeah.
And then we had to wait for the next, I guess it was Christmas show, or
yeah,
they had those 4 shows before Chudikawa came on the play, but no, they did 3 episodes with Tennant, right? As a sort of the placeholder Doctor, right?
Yep. So there is some stuff that's out there a bit. So Judy put out a statement on his socials, just talking about, how important this was and what a thrill it was. And, thank you so much for everybody letting me, play in this sandbox. But he doesn't really address the, was this always planned? Did they change path? Is this we don't want to, it's not working out having a queer Doctor. It's not working out having a black Doctor. Like, we don't know. We don't know what the motivating forces are.
Ironically, like, not even a month ago, he was on, I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel or one of those shows, because I watched it. I saw his interview, right? And they were talking about Doctor Who. They weren't talking about some other project that he's working on, right? Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like, he had a sort of weird look on his face, like, yeah, I'm really pleased to be the Doctor and whatever, and excuse me while I bite my tongue,
Yeah.
So, because clearly he had already filmed this by the time he did that interview, right? And I guess he just has to go off and do the promotion, because that's what you do, to get people to watch the show, kind of thing, right? So,
yeah.
Now I'll have to go back and watch that episode with Day of the Doctor is what I'm thinking of, is the show with John Hurt as the War Doctor, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well.
Disappointing and confusing.
It is. And again, I don't know.
That was 12 years ago, too. So if you think about it, it's been 12 years since she's been on the show, right?
Well, more to the point, it's 12 seasons. It's not 12 years. It's been 12 seasons. That's not accounting for real time either, right?
No, she was on in 2013. It's now 2025.
Oh, okay.
That's 12 years.
I thought for some reason we were counting like years versus seasons.
No.
Yeah, no. It's been a while. And as I say, like, I think for a lot of people, it's, but wait, also, why am I, like, who is this person? Why does it matter to me? And, oh, God, do I have to watch, like, 4 early seasons of Doctor Who now?
Well,
like...
I'm actually rewatching the David Tennant series right now. I stopped a couple of months ago, but, yeah, I went back and watched the whole Eccleston series, and I, survived, but now I'm sort of halfway through the first season with David Tennant, so.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it was back then it was appointment television. You had to be in your seat on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening to watch it. And if you were busy doing other things like playing hockey, whichever it was, you would miss episodes, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they were like $1 billion to buy on VHS, so you never did.
Yep. I remember when the DVD started coming out, it was like, sorry, how much?
Yeah, well, there's still like $35.
I mean,
even for
a lot of the stuff that came out on the BBC over the years has been a little bit on the expensive side. I don't know if it's just because of rights issues.
Maybe the boat that brings them over the ocean or whatever.
Well, I don't know if they're selling them over on the Queen Mary or something, because they can be a little overpriced. But
actually, there was one comment where didn't Chudikawa say to Jodie Whittaker, "You should have said what you should have said to Yaz?"
Oh, I love you, right? She says,
yeah.
She says, she says, I have to go, I can't regenerate now. I have to go and tell someone I love them. And she's like, I should have told Yaz that. And she's like, she knows, but yes, you should have.
Yeah, because Jodie Whittaker has a confused look on her face, right, when he says she knows.
Yeah.
Because he says she knows to her,
Yeah. So, yeah. No, it's definitely... it was an unusual way to end, and particularly because we don't really have a sense of what comes next. We don't know what the timing for a new season is. We don't know what the purpose of this is. We don't know if there were any conflicts, or if this was just something that was amicably and agreed to, if this was always the plan, or if this is something that changed. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how information comes out over the next little while, what Russell Davies has to say, what Billie Piper has to say, and, obviously the proof will be in the pudding. Maybe this will tee up the best Doctor Who season we've ever seen. We don't know. But when I saw, Billie Piper's face come out of that regeneration, I was like, wait, what? And not in a good way.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And the question is, will we see this on Disney Plus?
Well, yes, and because obviously there are a lot of implications there. Disney is not fully retreating, but they certainly are retreating somewhat in their DEI, given the circumstances that are happening in America. And, that could have been a factor of them saying, what's not really working for us right now is having a Black queer doctor. If that's the case, then, your mileage may vary on whether or not you want to support a show like that, but... or a company like that, but we don't know. That is pure speculation.
Yeah, there are a lot of bad reviews for this season, just all around, right? But
yeah, if people have legitimate concerns, and I think you and I and Jaime have talked about them a little bit here over the past 2 months, there are legitimately things you can quibble with. However, if your conversation about Doctor Who's recent season starts with, well, he's Black and he's queer, my conversation with you is over, and we can work from there. If that's the basis for your argument, it doesn't have a leg to stand on. If it's, hey, I have issues with the way that they portrayed the Doctor, or some of the choices the Doctor made, or some of the stories, sure, we can talk about that. I agree, there were some problems. But if it's as simple as, the temperature in America is not good right now for people who are dark-skinned and queer, then, get bent.
Yeah, I can't. Did you see, by the way, speaking of memes, did you see the Alien versus Predator meme going around today?
Well, I don't think I did.
It's got a picture of Elon Musk and 47.
There have been a lot of memes going around about those two who are apparently having a tiff. The best one I saw today was somebody had done like an AI picture, and it was a bunch of two LGBTQ people sitting around eating popcorn, watching these two slap each other, being like, "This is the best Pride Month celebration we could have asked for." Is watching these two have like the bitchiest fight of all time. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. I can't wait for the late night shows to to watch that stuff. But anyway, so yeah, I gotta say, for all that I've been watching Doctor Who since like the 70s, right? Something like the 70s, and all the way through all the different incarnations. It's always fresh. I mean, like, I don't know why people, like, I just saw a review here as I was scanning through some of the notes here that, they've ruined my favorite show. Well, the show has never really been the same. Like, it's evolved. Like, the whole concept of having a regenerating main character has basically made the show change and morph, and I didn't like Peter Capaldi on day one, but I grew into like him a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And I really liked Matt Smith, and he came in sort of as a I'm trying to think of there was another movie where this young girl has a fantasy, like a imaginary friend. Drop Dead Fred.
Drop Dead Fred. Yeah, Phoebe Cates.
Yes. Yeah. Same sort of style. Like when Amy Pond was talking about the Raggedy Man. Yeah, it was very similar to that sort of story, right? Mm-hmm. And, I did like David Tennant as a doctor. Like I said, Chris Eccleston was a little too stern for me.
For sure, I think he was for everybody, including himself.
Yeah, and then John Pertwee's representation of the Doctor versus Tom Baker's. A lot of people like Tom Baker. Like, he just sort of, like, he's like, if you don't like David Tennant, you probably like Tom Baker, right? I mean, not that you wouldn't like David Tennant. I'm saying it's either a toss up between one of those two, right? Like it's like Kirk and Spock, which is your favorite, whatever, right? Some people like McCoy, but
I mean, even the Tennant versus Smith one is a conversation for the more modern generation.
Oh, I have that argument with Tammy all the time. She's a 10th Doctor, and I'm Matt Smith.
Same.
So
same.
Yeah,
but it's a razor line. Like it's not like head and shoulders. It's pretty close. It's like they're both amazing in their own ways. But then you start talking about the other more modern doctors, and your list will probably vary a lot, whether you prefer, Capaldi or Eccleston or, Ncuti or,
Well, Capaldi over Eccleston easily. Capaldi or Whittaker over Capaldi. Ncudi's right in there with, I think, Matt Smith and for me, Matt Smith and David Tennant. Like he's sort of on that, not quite on that level of doctorness, but I liked that version of the Doctor.
What I definitely liked about Ncuti and what I will miss is he has an absolutely dazzling smile. He has the most infectious smile, and he brought a joy to the character that I felt had been a little bit drained. Even some of the Whittaker stuff, like she also has a dazzling smile, and she can be extremely charming, but some of the stories that she was working with were also a little heavier. I found a lot of joy in Judy's portrayal of the Doctor. I really enjoyed, both he is an actor and he is a performer. In retrospect,
it's too short. It's too short.
I mean, and again, I think it's a good twist. I support showrunners flouting expectations. People have it in their head that you play the Doctor for 3 seasons and then you move on. You play 3 seasons and move on. If they had decided to keep him on for a 4th season, that would have been a cool twist. If they cut him short, you don't expect it. I get it. Again, it's good writing. I get it. But also, I like this Doctor, and I like Ncuti, and I liked, I think we didn't get enough to really give him a fair shake. And, that will bother me. It just will.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right, well, let's move on to the watch list. Mm-hmm. List of watching. Unfortunately, I've got a few things. I just wanted to point out that Mickey 17 is now streaming.
Sure is.
I did go and see it in the theater, so I really enjoyed it. It's very Terry Gilliam-esque, yes. So I will sit down and watch it again.
Yeah.
I suffered through the Fountain of Youth, so you don't have to. It's
on Apple TV Plus, yeah.
It's National Treasure. It's the National Treasure 2 movie. It's like, it's the dude from The Office. I can never remember. What's his name? Emily Blunt's husband.
Oh,
John Krasinski.
Krasinski, yeah.
Krasinski and Queen Amidala, right? So they play brother and sister in this thing. It's good. It's fun. It's Guy Ritchie, so it's got that sort of sense of fun and adventure to it. But it's very, very typical. Right, it writes itself. Just add water, right? And then Rick and Morty. I broke down and added Adult Swim to my cable, not cable, but it's like an online package. I got a couple. They had a five channels for $5 deal. Mm-hmm. So Carol got a couple of her channels like Make Full and Smithsonian and things like that. She likes to watch, and I got Adult Swim and. What I'm overjoyed about was that I was able to go back and watch the first episode on demand. So there's been 2 episodes out already. I don't know what happened. I don't know what got into Cisco's. All I can say about that. But is good. I don't know if you started watching it or not. But
no, not yet. Because I'm in a transition phase right now. I don't have Adult Swim until I get my new place. So I'm a little behind. So.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's a great season, but I mean these 2 episodes have been better than the last season so far.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean because like there are some seasons of Rick and Morty that are just phenomenal, but some episodes that are just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. These ones are up there. And then, of course, you have to stick around and watch I was telling Keen the other day, asked me if I watched the end of the second episode and, the trailer at the end, the after the titles. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, I hit the wrong button on my remote. I'm watching on Apple TV and it changed channels on me. So you lose it doesn't keep a thread of what you've been watching, right? So,
Yeah.
Like a lot of times I'll put something on and I'll pause it and I'll go upstairs for a couple of hours and come back down and it'll be right where I left it, kind of thing. But yeah, or you accidentally bump the remote and it changes the channel. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mentioned Department Q at the top. It's a story about, it's a cop drama. I know it's another cop drama. It's very similar to like Luther. It's very similar to, it's a mystery. I mean, the actual story is like kind of predictable and they kind of do give away some stuff early. I think it's 9 episodes long, but phenomenal show. Matthew Good's the name of the actor who plays he's an English detective, and he's very, his typical grumpy cop kind of, master cop kind of, but he's a grumpy and hard to live with kind of guy. Mm-hmm. But the entire rest of the cast is all Scottish, so I mean I love it because that's my homie talk, right?
There you go.
And you might want to put the subtitles on. That's all I'm going to say. And his boss is the woman. I've seen her in a few shows. I'm trying to think. I know she was in the Harry Potter series as one of the, side. Let me just pull her name up here because you'll know her by sight, right? Kate Dickey. Yeah, I mean, just if you look at a picture of her on anything, you'll recognize her. But she's been in a few shows that I've been watching lately.
Okay.
Just trying to see if one sticks out. She was in Prometheus. And she was in Day of the Jackal. That's where I know her from. Yeah, phenomenal. And of course, every actor in there is actually Scottish, so it's kind of really interesting to see them, do their thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. It takes place in Edinburgh.
Nice.
And over to you.
A busy week for me. I was down in St. John for a few days, so I didn't have a ton of time, but I did start watching the final season of Big Mouth, a few episodes in. So I'll just do a quick check-in to say, off to a great start. Still super over the top, very funny. For those of you who are fans of the Book of Mormon, as I am, the original Broadway cast, the lead character was played by Andrew Rannells, who is now gone on to do lots of other things. He was on Girls, he was on all kinds of other programs, and he's a treasure, and he's a hell of a singer. And, hit the back seats kind of singer, right? Like he can, hit the back row of the theater with his voice. And he sings a song in the first episode about the first time he, as a queer character, gets to perform oral sex on another man. And it is this huge, sing to the back row musical number. And it is the funniest. I could not stop laughing. It was so freaking funny. He posted on his social channels a couple weeks ago the behind the scenes of him recording it. It is gut-bustingly funny. So yeah, if you're in for some, just some absolutely over the top adult humor, I'm loving it so far. I can't wait to see how they land this plane. But I love Big Mouth. I'm so happy that it's back, but so sad that it's going soon. So yeah. And that's all I had time for this week.
All right. Well, speaking of time, I guess that's it for another week. So, Jonathan, if people want in touch with you, where would they find you?
Oh, go look on Blue Sky or Instagram. I'm at JPK News. Or if you want to check me out on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@JPK.
But you can see him wandering around New Brunswick, too.
Yes, often will be found somewhere in the wilderness. I did spot my first moose this week. I was very excited by that.
Really?
Saw two of them. Saw 2 of them on the side of the road, just grazing away.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm living the life.
Yeah, I saw one at a border crossing once coming back into Quebec itself.
Yep.
And it was pretty big.
Yeah, they're not small animals.
He was doing the zoomies. So we just sort of pulled the car over and waited.
Yeah, they looked like they were behind a security fence that they have on the side of the highway.
Okay, yeah.
So I was glad for that. But they were just having a munch. They looked like they were young, but they were probably, I would say, 7 feet tall at least. So, yeah.
Scary stuff.
Yep.
Cool. All right. And well, my name is Timitra, Timmitra, on the Blue Sky machine, on the Mastodon machine. That's pretty much most of the socials. That's where I am, except for that one, which we shall remain nameless. But anyway, well, until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, you can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
By the way, Elaine Dickey was in the second season of Loki. She was one of the generals in that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think she gets dispatched with Hurley.
Yeah. What else is new?
Yeah. So yeah, she's a favorite actor, one of my favorite actors, but actor persons.
I don't know if you're in the loop as to what happened to me last weekend.
No.
So.
Is this safe for Spockcast recording? Or?
Yeah.
All right, okay, cool.
So we were down visiting my aunts and uncle and the family down at the family farm, and one of their dogs, Luna, was just starting to go into heat, and you could kind of get the vibe that she was off. She was just kind of being weird, and everybody was there, like all four of us, Melvin, everybody from the house was there. Some of your nieces and nephews were around, so it was a packed house. And because Luna was going into heat, Melvin was paying more attention to Luna than he was to Micah. Micah was getting bent out of shape. Luna was acting weird. Micah was acting weird, and the two of them got into a fight. So we separated them, and things were cooled down. But they were really kind of going at each other. Pat and I had to really pull them apart and separate them.
Sorry, who?
Micah and Luna. We're fighting.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Really fighting. Really snarling.
Knock down, drag them out.
Really. And so we separated them. And then a couple hours went by and we're all hanging out. We're doing stuff, whatever. And then Melvin and Micah came back in. And the two girls went for each other again. And they were going like a pit bull fight. Like they were just going to kill. And so unfortunately your little nieces were there. So I jumped up and I grabbed Luna and I pulled her one way. I was trying to hold Micah back with my other arm, and then Terrell was running over and Pat was running over. We're trying to separate them because they were really scary going at it. And I pulled Luna one way and I turned my back on Micah, and Micah ran around the side of me and she put her teeth right through my arm.
Ouch.
And so I was spraying blood across the carpet.
Oh, nice.
And, luckily we did manage to get the dogs apart. Everything's fine. They're fine. The girls are fine. The kids are fine. Terrell got a bite. He had to go to the hospital and get a tetanus shot and some glue. I had to go to the hospital and get a tetanus shot, but the bites were so deep on my arm in 3 places that they couldn't even stitch them together because there was pieces missing.
Oh, wow.
So I have these really gnarly cuts on my arm.
Yeah, they hurt. I've been bitten by dogs, as you know, and they're not pleasant.
No.
And they don't heal very well.
Well, and it's funny, too, because I have been bitten by dogs before, but it's been a long time since I've been bitten by a... Luna and Micah, I think, have other breeds in them. Micah in particular definitely has some terrier in her. And so she doesn't have a soft mouth. She has a hard mouth. She has a lockjaw. And so when she bit me, she took a bunch of pieces out, but also she dug deep and hard. And I had forgotten how much that could hurt, and it hurt really bad, and it's still to this day is quite stingy and bruised. But it was a pretty upsetting event. And anyway, full credit to the people at the Upper River Valley Hospital who quickly dealt with both Terrell and I, and we are fine, and none the worse for wear. And I'm gonna have a couple of gnarly scars, but
This is a match to one I have on my arm.
Nobody got hurt other than me. None of the kids got hurt. The dogs are fine. So that's the important part, is that nobody other than me got hurt, because I'm a big boy and I can handle it. But it was pretty intense in the moment, because I felt her bite in and it hurt a lot. And I looked down and blood was just rolling down my arms. And I was like, uh-oh, that ain't good. So, definitely went and dealt with it. I felt pretty queasy as I was, watching the blood flow out, and had to go get it looked at and everything. But the good news is everybody's fine. The dogs are fine. I'm fine. But pretty intense Saturday. And then, of course, I had to go to St. John for a conference for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So, trying to do all this stuff one-armed and not make things worse. But I was bleeding through my shirts and bleeding through my bandages. And it was a lot of fun.
Did Carol know?
I don't think so, unless Pat told her. I haven't told really anybody. This is the first time I've really talked about it. But so yeah,
pretty cool.
Yeah, again, like I said, if I had to do it again, I'd do the same thing. I'm not going to take a chance that one of those dogs rolls over one of those kids. So I'd have jumped in there and stuck my arm in the way again.
That definitely would have been not cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'd have done the same. And I know that like that was Terrell's impulse too. Was I'll put myself in front of the kids every single time. So it is what it is. But it was pretty messy. Yeah, so. Now I get to hope that these start to heal up a little bit, because our belongings arrive and our house comes into our possession on Monday. So our belongings arrive on Monday, and we start unloading everything on Tuesday morning. So I'm hoping that I can have a little bit more use of my arm by then. Right now it's a funky shade of purple and green.
I was going to say, like, can you lift things, or is it like... Is it just bandaged up, or?
So I've got a bunch of these waterproof sealed bandages over the actual cuts, but then my whole arm is like black and blue, just because of the pressure damage. Like, her bites are just as hard as her teeth, right? So yeah, I mean, I can pick things up probably to about 10, 15 pounds right now with that hand, but like, I'll be honest, she kind of bruised the ligaments in there too. Like, they're just tender. So I think I'm hoping by the beginning of next week everything will feel better. But right now everything's just from like the bone
left
outwards.
Or right arm, by the way?
My left, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Not that it really matters. Like, I can do everything with my right hand anyways, but yeah, it was definitely inconvenient. And as I said to Sherry, I'm like, damn it, we're getting a pool in a week and a half.
No, you're not.
Oh, yeah. Man. So yeah, hopefully I can get these holes to fill in before I get a chance to use my pool. She's like, I bet you the chlorine will feel good. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure that'll feel delightful.
Bromine. You don't use chlorine, you use bromine.
At my pool?
Yeah, you can use bromine instead of chlorine.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Your eyes don't burn as much.
I haven't. We're going to convert it to a saltwater pool at some point in the future, probably next, like in the fall or beginning of next season, because we don't want to bother stopping using a pool right now. But yeah, it's it'll be nice to have once this all heals up. But yeah, we'll gruesome in the meantime.
Yeah. Cool.
No, not at all. But I'm doing all right.
No, but it's cool.
No, it's cool. There's holes in your arm. It's funky.
Yeah. No, I was looking for... my scar has finally started to disappear, which after, I don't know, I think it was about maybe 12 when I got bitten last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, German Shepherd, same sort of deal. It was protecting the family, I guess, right?
Yeah, and again, like, I asked, sort of, how are the dogs doing? Is everything okay? And
I mean, did they not bite into each other? Or?
So Luna put a hole, I think, through Micah's ear. And I think they black and blued each other, but I don't think there was any more like piercing, like flesh piercing, like what I got. This
is because Mel was around, or
it was. I think it was a number of factors. There was a lot of people there. Micah and Melvin have really bonded, so I think having him paying attention to her. To Luna as opposed to Micah. I think she was bent out of shape about that. But also, I was there and both dogs really like me. Taro was there. We were paying attention to them. I think they were just being really, just really dramatic, right? Like, and, they're emotional creatures. They do get jealous. They do get frustrated. They do get all these things. And it seems like that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's the advantage of like city dogs. You put them on a leash and you take them out of the situation,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, because I've had issues at the park, and occasionally you'll hear, like Sorsha's her recall is pretty good because, a couple of dogs will start fighting at the park. Like you get that real loud growl, like you probably heard, right? Mm-hmm. And I can just say to her, like, stop. And she'll because she'll run right into it,
Yeah, I mean, these two, it was, they do that thing where they're like, they're kind of, their backs get up, their heads get low, they're looking out of the sides of their eyes. You're just like, uh-oh. And so we all saw it, the adults in the room were like, oh no. And we heard them start to growl at each other. And we were like I heard Pat say like, no. And then they just started hammer and tongs, just going right at it. And,
in the house, yeah.
Like in the living room with everybody there, including Kinley and Ruli and everything. So it was just like, holy moly. So I just jumped out of my seat and I grabbed to try and pull them apart. But like, they're very strong dogs too. Like they're not babies. These are, one's 4, one's 2. They're strong. And so, we did our best to pull them apart. But unfortunately, Taro and I both got a little dinged up.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I say, no, in the end, there's no one to blame. It is just what it is. But want to make sure that everybody's okay.
Sounds like an adventure.
Yes, this is my new life down here.
One of those life lessons. Yes, exactly.
Getting chomped on and everything. But like I say, none the worse for wear again. I do the same thing again, and I'm glad that the girls are okay, and I'm glad that the kids are fine. And scars build character, right?
I guess, yeah. Now you have to get a moth tattoo to cover it up.
Yes, is that what they're supposed to do? Like, it doesn't look like I was anything colorful. Like I was bit by what do they call it? Roamers or whatever? What do they call the
clicker?
Clicker, yeah. I was bit by a clicker. So yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh well.
Cool.
Yeah. Anything new interesting on your side?
No, just trying to plan our trip to London. Booked the flights, and I booked one hotel. I'm trying to get by, and my cousin's going to put us up for 3 or 4 days in Bath, and then trying to get agreement from She Who Must Be Obeyed about where we're going to stay in London, right? And I found a perfectly good place. It's like one of those. It's like a hotel apartment kind of deal,
mm-hmm.
And the price is reasonable, and
for London, yeah.
Well, considering too that it's like it's got like a front desk and all that kind of stuff, right? So, and it's got a little kitchenette and whatever. It might even have a bathtub if we're lucky, but just trying to get buy-in. Holy cow!
Yeah. So what's your timing? When are you leaving?
Well, it's the 27th of August. We'll be heading out, and then coming back on the 13th of September. So
okay.
I have a wedding. A friend's getting married in like almost near Manchester on the 29th. So we're planning to arrive early morning 28th, head up there by train or something. That's the other thing, is how we're going to get around the country. Carol's convinced that I had trouble driving in Ireland. I don't know. Do you remember me having trouble driving in Ireland?
I mean, we all had trouble driving in Ireland. That was just because of Ireland, not because of us.
Yeah. So anyway.
Something about streets that existed before there were cars.
Yeah, and roads that are wide enough for a car,
Yeah, barely.
With bramble on, I don't know, bramble, what's the word, but...
Yeah. Oh, those hedges, those ridiculous
you drove into the hedges and they didn't give.
Yeah, no. Oh, look, a tour bus. I guess I'll just die.
Yeah.
Actually, we can obviously talk about it off the air, but Sherry and I have tickets to see a show in September.
No, I saw that. Yeah, I saw you bought the tickets for the...
Oh, no, that's show. In October. No, it's September 6th. We've got tickets to go see a show at Budweiser Stage in Toronto. So maybe...
we won't be here, so there you go.
I was going to say, maybe we can borrow your abode for
flop here.
A couple nights, yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, I'll let Carol know.
Cool. Yeah, we're going to be back in a couple weeks because Zave's graduating on the 19th. So
of July?
Of June.
June. Oh, okay.
So yeah, so we'll be. I think we're going to come back on the Wednesday, the 18th, and probably just stay for 2 or 3 days. So
yeah,
we have to figure out where we're going to flop for that also, because we now no longer have a house in that area. So
that's true. Yeah, you don't
figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, let's call it there.
Alrighty.
And I'll talk to you next time. Yep. Okay.
Cool. All right.
Bye.
Yep.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.